Miku Expo North America 2024 was a highly anticipated tour. It was the first time Miku was going to perform overseas in 4 years, and performing in the US and Mexico after 6 years, and Canada after 8 years. So it was safe to say that everybody was excited. However, this tour has become one of the most controversial Miku events to date. But was the tour itself really that bad? I'm going to be going over all of the hot topics of this tour to analyse were they really that bad or were people overreacting. And just to clarify, I am not putting anyone down for being disappointed or upset. People have every right to. However, there are some things I think people are complaining about that just don't deserve the amount of complaints it's getting. So let's just dive into the first and main complaint: the LED screen. The main attraction point of a Miku concert is her holographic appearance on the stage. And ever since 2009, Miku has been performing as a hologram. It has been the standard for concerts for all the 15 years Miku has performed on stage. So when Miku Expo NA 2024 was announced, people had no reason to suspect anything other than the hologram. So it was quite a surprise for the attendees of the Vancouver concert, the first location of the tour, when instead of seeing a glass screen on stage, it was just a giant black LED screen. This change was entirely out of left field, and there had been no prior indication that the tour was going to be any different from those before. So people were rightfully upset, because many spent hundreds of dollars on tickets expecting the hologram experience, but instead got something completely different. And even worse, they had to find out once they walked inside the venue, instead of being told prior, which people definitely have the right to be upset about. If Krypton stated even just a week before the first event, hey, we're not having the hologram, instead it's going to be an LED screen, that would have been better, because then people would have the chance to either refund their tickets or know that when they were walking inside, they weren't getting the exact Miku experience they were expecting. But the fact that Krypton was silent on this made it even worse. They didn't even address the change until a few shows later, but even then it wasn't properly addressed, other than that they were trying out new technologies and that the LED screen would be used for the entirety of the North American tour, as well as over into the European tour, which is honestly awful communication on Krypton's part. If they're going to change such a core piece of Miku concerts, they should have disclaimed that. They should have told the fans instead of letting them discover it for themselves, as it caused major disappointment. And I think it's dug themselves into such a grave, I'm not sure if they'll be able to dig them out, unless they come out with a statement saying, we've heard your voices, you don't like the LED screen, for the next tour is 100% going to be the hologram. So it makes you wonder, why did they switch to LED screen? Well, as the shock of not having a hologram wore off, people were talking about how high quality the screen was. Miku and the others were being seen in high detail that they aren't usually seen as, because the LED strong suit is that no matter what position the character's in, they will always be bright. With the hologram, if the character moved to the side, they would often get dimmer, and the hologram as a whole is much dimmer than the LED screen, which means more people can see Miku from further away than you can with a hologram, which is definitely a plus for the LED screen considering the size of the venues that were selling out. Another plus for the LED screen is that it's easier to set up and transport, and this is proven by how close the dates of the tour were. If we take a look at the cancelled 2020 tour, we can see that all these dates are basically 4 days apart, but if we look at 2024, there is a concert basically every other day, which meant Miku could tour to more places in a shorter amount of time. For the cancelled 2020 tour, in 50 days, Miku was going to play at 12 locations. And in 2024, in only 47 days, Miku got to perform at 17 locations, not including Coachella, and not including the locations with double shows. So it's for a fact that the LED screen is easier for them to tour with, as they can get to more locations in a shorter amount of time, which for as high as a demand for tours to start up again, it made sense for them to choose the LED screen, as they could get to more places and to more people, which wasn't a bad move, but the way they went around it and utilized it was bad. The main reason being is the stage design, which I'll explain in a second, but there's a couple other points I'd like to go over first. First being was that they made the screen smaller, and Miku herself is smaller, which isn't true. Miku has always performed as her canonical height, and if you go back and look at Miku Expo concerts, you'll see just the distance she has between her and the top of the screen. She's always been tiny. It's only because that this space is now blacked out and obvious that she now looks really small. But this has always been the case, and people were saying, oh, it must have gotten smaller because Miku's hair is just about getting cut off by the edge of the screen, which again isn't true because Miku has always been close to getting her hair cut off at the edge of the stage, and the characters have always run up to the direct edge of the Miku Expo stage just to make use of the entire space that they have, because what's the point of having this entire stage if you don't want them running up to the edge? They may as well just stick to the center the entire time. I didn't attend this tour, but just based on the pictures, this screen is the exact same size as the hologram screen. I think people just misinterpret that it's a different size just because we're able to actually see this entire screen, opposed to the glass hologram screen, which is transparent and you don't exactly gauge the complete size of it. But no, the LED screen is not smaller. It's the same size as an expo stage always has been. It's just made more obvious because now you can see it. Another issue that came up with the LED screen was at the Phoenix, Arizona show, where one of the panels on the LED screen went dead. Every time a character walked over it, it was just a bright purple square, and it was present for about 3 songs until it was eventually fixed. Obviously, this issue would never happen with a hologram, and while it is disappointing that this just random purple bright square is just on the screen and covering the characters at points, I believe this is the only show that it happened at, so it's not a huge issue like it happened at every other show. But yes, the people who attended this concert do have the right to complain because it was such an illusion-breaking error. But luckily, the panel that malfunctioned was off to the side, and it only lit up when a character walked over it, as opposed to just constantly being on, which was lucky because if it was in the center of the stage, it would have been a much huger issue, as it would have been present consistently for about 4 songs, which is definitely a minus for the LED screen. But again, it only happened for the one show out of 21 concerts. It would have been great if it never broke at all, but the fact it only happened once from the entirety of the tour, it's inconvenient, but it's not a huge issue. And I think its hologram counterpart would be the characters dimming as they got further away from the projector. So it's not great, but it's not bad either. Another complaint for the LED screen is that from the sides, Miku and the others look flat, which is not a new thing for the LED screen because it's the same case with the hologram. Sorry to break it to you guys, but Miku's not real and she's 2D. So whatever way that she's presented, whether on an LED screen or projected onto a glass screen, she's going to be flat. Everybody knows this. And that's why most seats on the side aren't available for purchase, because even Krypton knows that they're flat from the side. The LED screen isn't what made them flat, and if you purchase a side seat, I'm sorry to say, but you should have known that they were going to appear flat. If anything, the LED screen was the best case scenario for people in side seats, because with a hologram, not only would they appear flat, but they will also appear dim, and with an LED screen, they would remain bright enough for you to at least see them. So their flat appearance from the side is not the LED screen's fault. That's just how Miku concerts are. But even if the LED screen choice seems out of left field, an LED screen in Miku concerts is not a new thing. It was first used at Mikupa Tokyo 2011, which was a very controversial performance because everyone was complaining about it. And then after this performance at Mikupa Sapporo, it was still used, but as a second screen, and only some performances took place on it. And this was used at a lot of Mikupa concerts until 2013, and then they just stopped using it. So the choice of using an LED screen is not a new thing, but it is new for it to be used on tour and as the main screen. The most recent performance to use the LED screen before this tour was actually at Miku Fest 2024. And as far as I saw, I didn't see many people complaining about it, but the reason that Miku Fest worked and Miku Expo didn't was because of the stage design. If we look at Miku Fest 2024, we can see this stage design perfectly enwraps the screen, which is where Miku Expo went wrong. The Miku Expo stage design had a lot of LEDs and lights behind the screen, and when they shined, it was made obvious that there was just a giant screen there because you can't see the lights anymore. If it was a hologram screen, the lights would still shine through, but because it isn't, and it just gets blocked by this giant LED screen, it completely ruins the illusion. If this stage design incorporated the LED screen, I do not think there there would be as much controversy. People would still be bummed it's not a hologram, but because it would still hold up the illusion, it wouldn't be as bad. And I honestly think some people wouldn't have noticed. But because this stage design does not incorporate the LED screen and it's kind of just plonked there, it sticks out like a sore thumb and completely ruins any sort of immersion. Now, as the tour progressed, the team did try to fix as much as they could with what they had. The main example being the team put LED strips around the giant LED screen so it kind of fit in with the building designs. And while it did help, it didn't completely fix anything because these lights were still behind the stage. It was illuminating the fact there was just a giant black box. But it was reassuring to know that the team knew and were trying to help the situation as much as they could. Despite the fact there was no official statement, it was still reassuring to see that they were listening in some type of way. And in the future, hopefully it could mean we could get the hologram back or a well-incorporated LED screen. But the fact that the LED screen wasn't incorporated at all makes me think that this stage was designed with the idea that the hologram was intended. Because for Miku Fest 2024, they must have known they were having an LED screen, otherwise they wouldn't have wrapped the stage this way if it was a hologram. So they knew for a fact that they were having the LED screen for this performance, so designed a stage that would incorporate it and make it look decent. So if they knew they were having the LED screen for the North American tour, why didn't they create a stage that would incorporate it? And why would they intentionally make a stage design which has LEDs and lights run behind the stage, which would obviously be blocked out? This is why it makes me think that the hologram was intended, because them running lights behind the stage to shine through the hologram has been done before. An example being Miku Expo Europe 2018, where for some performances they had these little star lights shining from behind. They wouldn't do that unless they knew they had the hologram, because what would be the point in having lights shining behind it when you can't see them? So the choice for the LED screen could have been a last minute decision. So last minute they couldn't alter the stage in order to incorporate it. But even then, the way they went about the first few shows of the tour wasn't great. Even if it was a last minute decision, they shouldn't have just put the LED screen in the middle of the stage like it was the glass screen, because obviously it didn't look good, and there's no way that they didn't know this. It is great that they actively changed it throughout the tour, but I would have thought they would have these ideas before the first show to make it look as good as they can get, but they didn't, which makes me think they may have wondered if they could get away with it, but we saw how that went. So even if the switch from hologram to LED was last minute, hopefully they have learnt their lesson and they will better incorporate the screen the next times they need to use them, and we'll see how that goes at the European tour. But the biggest issue wasn't the LED screen, it was just the stage design, because if this stage design actually incorporated the LED screen and fed into the illusion, there wouldn't be as many complaints as there are. But because the LED screen was just shoved into the front of the stage and was made so obvious, that was the issue. Yes, it would be disappointing that you're not getting the hologram, but if the LED screen and the stage design fed into the illusion, it would have been 1,000 times better, because the quality of the LED screen itself was much better than the hologram and can be enjoyed by fans at a much further distance in a quicker amount of time. And the way they handled the situation wasn't any better because they just didn't communicate. Those were the main issues, and all of them could have been easily solved. But because they weren't, they led to an entire controversy that they might struggle to come back from. Aside from the LED screen and the stage issues, there are still some other complaints I would like to address. The first being the set list. So many people complained about the songs that were performed, but I think most of the complaints were rubbish. The set list itself wasn't bad. This tour is specifically an anniversary tour, so they performed many theme songs as well as bringing back the contest winning songs as well, which were people's first complaint. There were too many theme songs. It's an anniversary tour, it's celebrating the 10 years of Miku Expo. Of course they're going to perform the theme songs. So that was the first complaint. The second complaint was that there weren't enough classic songs, which I'm sorry to say, times move forward and they cannot perform the same 15-year-old songs over and over and over again. They can't stick to the past. There are plenty new songs and new producers that deserve to be appreciated, and they can't keep touring like it's Miku Expo 2016. That was 8 years ago. You cannot expect them to perform the same songs from that concert. Not only that, a lot of songs people were expecting Overreacting were performed on the previous tour in 2018, so obviously they weren't going to perform majority of those songs again because they already performed them and they want to bring new songs and new performances over to the country. So saying that the setlist is bad just because it hasn't got the exact old songs you were hoping for is just silly, because the setlist itself was decent. But I do have some complaints as well. For an anniversary tour, I was expecting for there to be at least one song to be like a classic song that was performed on the first Miku Expo tour, kind of like as a throwback. But also another complaint about the setlist, because there were quite a few songs that were performed on this setlist that were performed only a couple months prior at Miku Expo VR 2023. And while it is great that these songs get to perform on a real life stage, I feel like the decision to bring them to a real stage was too early, because Miku Expo 2023 basically just happened. So for people to go to a concert only a couple months later after watching the online concert and seeing these songs again, it felt kind of repetitive. So I do understand the complaints about that. That being said, the setlist as a whole is decent. Plenty of theme songs to celebrate the anniversary, as well as bringing back the contest winning songs, which I did not expect them to do, and remastering the performances of the contest winner and the theme song from Miku Expo Online 2021 and bringing them to the real life stage. That being said, I do think the setlist could be balanced a little more, like I said, with one classic throwback to the original tour, as well as extending the setlist to 25, just because they're trying to squeeze all of these theme songs inside, and it just gives them that little extra room to perform a couple other songs. So was the setlist bad? No, not as bad as people were saying it was. It's actually a pretty expectant setlist for modern times and an anniversary setlist, but I do think it could have been balanced a little more, because there were a lot of new songs, especially songs that were technically just performed, and they also just should have extended the setlist just by a couple songs, just so there was a bit more breathing room between theme songs. But overall, the setlist was fine. I think people are just too stuck in the past and expecting another Miku Expo 2016, which isn't going to happen. So in future, if you're planning to attend a Miku concert, I'd recommend watching the most recent concerts to keep up with the songs that are now currently performed, so you know which songs you could expect. Leaning in with the setlist, another common complaint was that the models used in the concert were not consistent. And I'm not sure where you've been, because the models have not been consistent since 2016. The last time a Miku concert only used one type of model was at Magical Mirai 2016. And the first time that they used multiple model types in one concert was actually Miku Expo Shanghai 2015. So for almost a decade now, it's been the norm for multiple model types to be used in the same concert. Yes, it does break the illusion when Miku keeps appearing in a different form, but this is not a new thing and has been happening for basically a decade. And Miku Expo hasn't seen a model consistent concert since 2014. So yes, it does break the illusion, but this isn't a new thing. And even Miku Expo 2016, that everyone hails at the best Miku Expo, uses multiple model types. So you know, I think this was just a complaint people were adding because people were complaining. But this isn't a new thing. Yes, it does break the illusion, but this isn't a Miku Expo 2024 thing. This has been a thing for a very long time. Glowsticks was another big complaint just because of the lack of supply, which yes, it was a big problem. I have no idea how the main pre-order site sold out so fast when the Glowsticks for the European tour did not sell out once during the entire pre-order period. But people were making this a bigger issue than it was. People were acting like not having a Glowstick just ruined the entire thing. I understand being upset about not getting one, but the Glowsticks do not make the Miku Expo experience. Yes, it's fun having a light stick that can change color and you can wave it about and chant with the songs, but you can do that with a chemical glow stick. It doesn't have to be an official color changing one. Glow sticks have been a thing used at Miku concerts since the beginning, and at the beginning it was only chemical glow sticks. Do you think that ruined the experience for them? Of course not. They grabbed a glow stick and chanted with everybody else. And it's the same thing with the price. People were complaining that the glow stick was now really expensive, which yeah, fair enough, the price has has gone up. However, there is nothing stopping you from getting a chemical glow stick and joining in with everybody else. People were acting like it was the end of the world that they didn't get a change in glow stick, when they could easily just grab a chemical one and join in the fun with everyone else. You should not let the fact that you do not get an official light stick ruin the event for you. I promise it's just as fun to wave a chemical glow stick as it is an interchangeable one. At Miku Expo 2020, I was sat next to a girl that didn't have a glow stick, chemical or official, and she was just waving her hand with everyone else. And also the fact that there was only 95 glow sticks available at the in-person merch at each venue. You have to keep in mind how many venues they were going to, so imagine the amount of stock they had to carry with them. So the fact they only carried one box per venue seems pretty reasonable. Otherwise, if you were expecting them to carry 2 or 3 boxes per venue, that would mean they would have to transport over 60 boxes on just glow sticks alone, which doesn't seem very practical. So yes, there was a stock issue, and they should have had way more available for the pre-order, but not having a glow stick was being made a much bigger issue than it actually was. Even though they don't hand out free chemical glow sticks at the concert anymore, it's still a much cheaper alternative, and in terms of the unofficial light sticks many people brought to the venue, even though in the end it didn't affect the LED screen, you should still respect Krypton's rules, even if they didn't enforce it at the venues, especially when it comes to the next expo that's held, because if it's finally back to the hologram, if you have your unofficial light sticks, they will be too bright and you will ruin it. So while it was okay this time, the next time, do not bring them, because it will mess up the hologram not just for you but for everyone else. And since it isn't strictly enforced at the venues, we are only relying on trust of people not bringing these bright light sticks. So don't be the one to ruin the hologram when it finally returns. Get your hands on an official one or just use a chemical glow stick. Another change that not many people were bothered by, but I think just added to the pile of changes from the previous tours, is that for the first time, there is a Western Miku band. For every concert, it's always been the Japanese Miku band, so for them to suddenly hire a Western one was a really sudden change, and it makes you question why they did it or why they felt the need to do it. It was a disappointment for more long-time fans that were hoping to see some of the Japanese Miku band in action, but overall, this band was amazing. They played flawlessly and the energy they brought to each concert was phenomenal. So while it is disappointing it's not the original Miku band, this was a great alternative, and honestly props to them for soldiering through this tour and all the negativity, because they were amazing and I'm sure they made the whole experience a lot better for many people. But why were they caged up during the first half of the tour? Now for the big question. Was it Crunchyroll's fault? No, it wasn't. Many people were quick to blame Crunchyroll because not only are they kinda controversial themselves, it's also because they were a main part of the promotion with their name slapped on the website, which hadn't been seen before, and so people linked, oh, there's never been a big brand slapped on the label before, and all of these bad changes all of a sudden, it must have been their fault. And no, it's not their fault. Krypton is behind all of these choices, the set list, the screen, the stage design, it's all them. Crunchyroll was just a sponsor for the tour, as well as having a hand in the ticket distribution. That's all they did. And Miku Expo being sponsored isn't a new thing. Many past expos have had sponsors, they just weren't as plastered as Crunchyroll was. So while it would be nice to blame a third party for all the problems, we have to accept that it was Krypton's doing. It was their changes and their mistakes. So, was Miku Expo 2024 in North America a bad tour? Yes and no. Yes, because they should have disclaimed that they were changing to an LED screen, they should have created a stage design to incorporate the LED screen, and they could have balanced the set list better. But the quality of the LED was very good. It meant they could tour more places in a short amount of time. The set list was expectant of an anniversary tour, and many of the other complaints like the models not being consistent, the characters being flat from the side, those issues weren't new, and while they could have some valid points, it's not solely a Miku Expo 2024 thing. The change to the LED screen without any prior notice was definitely a bad choice, and not Crunchyroll's fault. This is 100% Krypton's mistakes, and hopefully they have learnt from this by incorporating the LED screen better and disclaiming the fact that it won't be a hologram before the tour starts. Overall, the tour was a mess and was quite a disappointment for Miku's long-awaited return to overseas performances, and also not making a great start to the 10th anniversary Miku Expo celebrations, but they managed to tour many places in a shorter amount of time, and in a way meeting just the high demand for Miku concerts overseas again. Hopefully the mess was just on the part that they hadn't toured overseas in so long and kind of underestimated what they were getting themselves into again, and hopefully from here on out they have learnt their mistakes and that Miku Expo will only just go up from here, and I'm excited to see where else the 10th anniversary tour goes and what else they have in store for it. Europe is excited for your return, Miku, so continue to spread your universal positivity across the world.